So in 1975, around Labor Day, we decided to look for a new house because this house was too small for us. And so we looked in North County. We couldn't find anything, so we went to West County. And we looked at several houses, and so we finally found one we thought we liked. So we signed the papers committing to buy a house. It was on Labor Day of 1975. So we finalized the deal, and so they built the house in the wintertime, which I didn't really care for, because when they finished the house, they didn't finish the concrete work outside. The sidewalks were not there, and the driveway was not there. And so we were...
What road was this on? What was the address?
1246 Cedar Creek Road.
Okay, in Chesterfield.
Yeah. And anyway, it wasn't particularly nice for us moving into a house that we were in mud, because you can imagine in the wintertime it snowed and it rained and so forth, and we had no way of getting in the house other than tracking mud into the house. So it wasn't. But at the same time, when we moved into the house, the 5 boys and Marge quietly got together and said, "We're going to get a pool." And so when they approached me on it, I said, "No way in heck are we going to get a pool." I said, "Well, who's going to take care of it?" And they all chirped up, "Oh yeah, we'll help you take care of it." Well, they never took care of it. But anyway, it was a pleasant, once springtime came and everything cleared up, we had a big mountain of dirt in the back where they were digging for the pool. And so when that was through, we were able to settle down, and well, we couldn't do any gardening the first year because of the chaos that was in the backyard. But it was good, and the next thing we did was, my kids were growing up at that time, and we had 5 cars parked in front of the house, and I never did know what the neighbors thought. But we had an island right across the street from us, so we had some extra room to park cars. And one of the things I insisted on with the house was a rear entry garage. So at first they said, "We can't do that. There's not enough room." And I said, "Well, I don't want it then." So they called me up a couple of days later and said, "Oh, we found a way to get it in there." So I said, "Oh, that's fine, good." So that's the way that happened. But anyway, Kevin was a cement finisher, and Kevin Leahy, and he got my oldest son David to go in with him to work on patios, put it in patios, and so after a while, they formed a company of their own. But they bit off too much, and they were competing with some big concrete finishers, and so they backed off of that, and they went back to doing patios and various things like that. Well, when we got to Chesterfield, all my kids, or my first 4 kids, graduated from Aquinas High School in Florissant. But Craig went for his freshman year at Aquinas, but since we moved to Chesterfield, he wanted to go to Parkway South anyway, so we said okay. And so he played soccer on the freshman team at Aquinas. Then he came to play soccer at Parkway Central. And then he played on the golf team. And how we got interested in golf, the kids, when they were young, I'd say early high school, they were caddying up at Norwood Country Club. And that's where they learned all the things, the good and the bad about golf. And, anybody that wanted a caddy was a pro wannabe. And so they learned all the languages, good and bad, good points of how to hit the ball and all that kind of stuff. So it rubbed off on them. They learned a lot, and they turned out to be fairly decent golfers. They were on the high school team. So,
were you a golfer at that time?
I never played golf. I thought it was one of these silly games that go chase a ball, But I watched it on TV. I really was interested on the pros playing. But I went to the golf ranges and I tried to hit the ball, and I hit the ball and I'd go every which way. And so I really didn't pick up interest in it until I was in my 40s. And so after playing for a while, and the company had after work Monday night at a golf course in 9 holes.
Is this Moog?
Yeah, Moog Automotive. And we played 9 holes at Normandy Golf Club. And I was starting to like it because I started learning, and my kids had no patience with me. The reverse went. Did I have patience with them when they were growing up? Yes. But they had patience with me? No. But anyway, the golf really turned out to be, when we were, let's see, Marge died in 1959, and
tell me the year they're on. You said Marge died what year?
No, 1999.
Right.
Craig, my youngest, decided he and his friend was going to get together and go to Scotland to play golf. How did we do that? Well, they found out that there's a place up in New York that is the go-between, like the highest Scotland golf courses in it. So that's how we got into that. So Craig and Doug and Mark, I forget Mark's last name, Mark Fisher. And we went to Scotland. We played the name courses over there, St. Andrews being one of them, being the top course. But all these courses we played. You played the British Open once a year. They rotated over there. And so it was such a success in our minds that we went to England the next year. And that year, David went with us. Doug did not go with us at that time. And Rick didn't go because he lived in Texas and he was committed to his job. So, and Jeff was the same way. He was committed to his job. But when we went to England, classic courses, just unbelievable courses that had a lot of history to them. And they had the same like Scotland. The courses played the British Open. And so we played all those courses that were the British Open. So we're in a year, we decided, well, we might as well try Ireland. So Ireland was really, we learned a lot in trying to get around, because the roads over in England and Scotland are really tough to get from point A to point B. So we went to, we rented a bus. There was 8 of us this time. And it was a mini bus, but it held 8 guys very comfortably. And we didn't have to worry about, when we were finished with 18 holes, there the bus was. We just got on the bus and loaded our clubs on it and went to go have lunch or go to dinner or whatever it might be. The courses were just magnificent as far as scenery is concerned. And there were also a great course in golf. And we played 7 courses there, and every one of them was magnificent. But I really have to tell you this. There's a town named Ballybunion, and there was a course named Ballybunion. And in the town square, you wouldn't guess there was a statue of Bill Clinton.
Really? What year was that? Was in the early 2000s?
This was in 2003. 2003. Yeah. Even the bus driver was a Democrat, a liberal. So anyway, he was proud to tell us that. He didn't realize there was only conservatives on the bus. But it was good.
So yeah, Clinton had finished his 2 terms by then.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. In 1990, Marge had a tumor on her brain. And so, obviously, we had it operated on. And the operation itself would seem to be a very good success. And we had it at St. Luke's Hospital, where I happened to volunteer. So, anyway, as time went on with her, little things started to happen to her, like her one side of her face started to be paralyzed. No feeling was in her face. In other words, when she was eating, she had to make sure that it was on the right side, because the left side she couldn't feel it. And so it was a little tough for her, and so, but we seemed to improve a lot, and so she started to get her face back to the normal looking, and so I was still working, at Moog, and so one of the people that called on me when I was at Moog was Georgia Pacific, and they they asked us to go to the West Coast with them, to Pebble Beach in Monterey and that area, and then go up to the wine country and so forth, and San Francisco and that kind of thing. It was very, very good for her. And we stayed at a motel, a hotel, whatever you want to call it, right there in near the golf course that Doris Day owned. You know who Doris Day is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Singer.
Yes. So, but anyway, but as time started going on, little things was happening to her. She started gaining weight, was, couldn't figure it out other than, I don't know why. Okay, but it was one of the things that was plaguing her at the time. So, so finally, she started really going downhill gradually. You could, see things going. And so it got worse and worse. And I had her in the hospital before, and the doctors didn't really want to say too much about it, but cancer came into effect. And when the cancer came into effect, we were with the doctors, and the doctor said, well, we really can't tell you, you got a pretty severe case. And so they said, but you could live 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever. So she took chemotherapy, thinking that a miracle might happen. And lost her hair, put wigs on her, that kind of thing. And so the next thing we know, we had her in the hospital, and of all things, one morning, and David and I were there at the hospital because she was going to have a procedure done the next day, and I can't remember exactly what the procedure was going to be. But about 4 o'clock in the morning, she had a heart attack and died. And so that's about you can't go any further than that. Now, she is buried at Jefferson Barracks.
Right
So,
where you will be buried.
yes.
How old was she?
She was 64, I believe. Yes, and she's almost 65. 64. That's no matter. It's 64 or 65. So, then I decided, living in a house in Chesterfield was too big for me. I didn't want the pool. And then I moved to Winghaven out in O'Fallon. And I had a house built, and I was so happy with that because I got everything I wanted because I was with the builder and so forth and told him all what I wanted. As an example, the front elevation of the house, I added, it cost me like $10,000 to improve the elevation of the front, just the appearance, so forth. And I just had all 9-foot ceilings in the basement and in upstairs. It's a single-story house. And I finished off the basement, and I would put my own carpet down. I got teased by...
You did the refinishing of the basement yourself?
No, I had it done.
Okay.
But so I had concrete floors, and so I went to this place. I don't know how I ever got caught onto this, but 3-by-3 tiles, 3 foot by 3 foot. They're pretty big, yeah. And it was a place that sells. And it's not a regular carpet place, so whatever. So I bought them, and what you do is, they're like tongue and groove. You just put them down on the concrete, and you just put them in there, they snap right in there. So they ran out of the carpet that I wanted, and so I had to take another color, And boy, did my family razz me about that. What the hell does this look like? But anyway, it looked good to me. So anyway, it was good. It was good. But I had a garden. I had,
Inspired by?
We had a uniqueness. We had alleys in the back. In the garage, you entered the alley. I had a 2-car garage. And I like that. And in the street in front, well, not exactly right in front of our house, but the street had an island all the way down to the end where it turned. It was really neat, and it was really nice.
Was your garden inspired by your friend from... when you lived on Margaret Avenue?
Absolutely. Mr. Jenner. His name was William H. Jenner. And I never had enough, I thought he was always Mr. to me. Right. And he was a prince of a guy. Died when he was 97. And yeah, he was somebody to really look up to. In 2006, my kids wanted to go to the World Cup, which was held in Germany in 2006. And I said, yeah, I'm in. So there was Craig, Jeff, and myself.
I think I have some photographs that you've shown me of that. We can include those.
Yeah. And we met Johnny Mullenberg over there, who is a friend, a brother of Lauren Guempel. And
does he live over there?
No, he came.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There were some other people there. I can't remember who it was. But,
Doug?
pardon me?
Doug didn't go?
No. That in itself, I'll tell that little story. We had a flight to Chicago. And from Chicago, we were supposed to go to Madrid. and Madrid to Berlin. And we got to Chicago. They were purposely delaying us in St. Louis for some reason. And so we sat on the tarmac for a while. We got up to Chicago, and we're running down to catch the plane. They closed the door right in our face. So that's it. So now this is 11 o'clock at night. What are we going to do? So we were calling the headquarters of one of the main airlines. I can't remember which one it was.
A U.S. carrier?
Yeah, a U.S. carrier. And so this woman was very nice, and it was 12 o'clock midnight, and she had nothing to do but see what she could do for us. So she got us a plane to go to Puerto Rico at 6 o'clock in the morning. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, we get to Puerto Rico, and we get on a Iberian plane, Iberia, to Madrid. So we get to Madrid, and we're running like crazy, and these guys we're running, and hey, I'm trying to keep up with them in the terminal, and so we just barely get on that plane from Madrid to Berlin. So we get to Berlin, and I said, the next thing we're going to have a problem with is our hotel or whatever. Well, it was okay, and so we got to the stadium that Hitler was in 1936 with, yeah. Anyway, it was all worth the while, and we toured Berlin a lot, East Berlin, West Berlin, and you can tell the difference between East Berlin and West Berlin. So at that time, because East Berlin was not as well done as the West Berlin, as you can imagine, being under communist rule, and. We went by Checkpoint Charlie, which is going from West Berlin to East Berlin, and the wall. There were still portions of the wall still there. So, but anyway, when we were coming back, we tried to get into some other games that were going to be played. But we didn't manage that. But we had to go to Frankfurt to get a plane to come back home. Well, the problem was we had a day to burn. Craig and I had a day to burn. So we took a flight over to Switzerland. And we went to Switzerland, and we went on a tour of Switzerland, one of their main cities, and I don't think it was Bern. I can't remember which one it was.
Missouri?
Yeah, whatever. But anyway, it was very, very interesting to be in Switzerland. I thought I'd never been in Switzerland before, but okay. So that was a real good experience for it. So by that time, I didn't realize it, but my future wife was coming into the picture at this time. And I would see her. See, Craig lived out off of Wild Horse Creek, and so Betty Ann's youngest daughter lived out there in the same subdivision. So Lauren, Craig's wife, was made friends with they lived in the same street, in fact. And so their kids were growing up, and so they would have a birthday or they'd have some kind of function. And I remember the first time Betty Ann came, I didn't know she was coming over to their house, over Kathleen's house, her daughter. She walks in, and I'm just sitting there in the kitchen. I'm looking up, and I'm thinking, who is that? What is she all about? And so, to make a long story short, we would meet at soccer games because the girls played soccer and all this kind of stuff. But I said, this will never work. She's from Belleville. She's 57 miles away from my house. So now how in the hell am I going to even entertain this idea? Or even if she wanted me to do it, you know. So I got tired of this. So she had a issue with her ankle or something. And I said, oh, I know a doctor you ought to go to, you know. So I set her up with going to the doctor. I went with her, and then I took her to lunch, you know, and it still didn't take, you know, like, okay, goodbye.
It didn't take, mean she wasn't interested?
Well, I think I'm not speaking for her. I would say we were both interested, but we were saying, how's this going to work, you know, and like in the wintertime and so forth, you know, going up far and that kind of thing. So it comes to the point where I said to her, do you want to go out to dinner? And this is about 2.5 years later. And I said, and she said, yes. So we went, which is unbecoming of me, an expensive restaurant. and so it's this mushroom. I lived out in Winghaven at that time. Okay. So once we got convinced that we love each other and so forth, I said, I gave her an engagement ring just out of the blue, you know, and everybody in the family, especially on her side, what are you going so quick for? I said, we may be dead in 6 months, you know, so what's the point of waiting? Okay.
Wasn't there some story you were going to tell about Craig and Lauren's daughter said something to you about getting married to her? Do you remember that story you told me? Said something like, Grandpa, why don't you just ask her to marry you?
Emily said that.
Oh, Emily said that.
Tell that story.
Yeah, well, then you're going to turn that off while I talk.
Come on over there.
Well,
Yeah, come on over.
Well, he asked me to dinner. Kathleen had by then moved to Denver, and she came in for the weekend. And so that's when he asked me to go to dinner to Bristol's. Oh, I don't know how I look.
Oh, come on.
To Bristol's. And I said yes. So anyway, we're at the door leaving, and Emily said, Grandpa, why don't you just marry her? And of course, we laughed it off, you know. And
yeah, there was other things we did. That I invited the families out to my house for dinner, and so this is when we were still arm's length from each other.
during
Your
Christmas.
family and your family?
No, it was Kathleen's family,
Yeah, and Craig and Lauren, I think.
and her mom and dad.
Oh, yeah. So I asked her if she could help me finish off this dinner that I think I thought I could make, you know. So that's when the little kibitzing went on about, oh, what's going on here, you know.
Yeah.
So But anyway, great things happen. And so we went to the same restaurant for Bristol's. But what did we go there for? What was the occasion? Any occasion?
Well, when you gave me my ring.
Yeah, I know, but you didn't know that.
No. Well, you asked me to dinner.
Okay. You mean I afforded that? Or?
Oh.
But anyway, so we were in the Bristols, and I'm saying to myself, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? So I decided, I told you that I had to go out to the car, didn't I?
No, you said you're going to the restaurant.
I'm going to the restaurant. Well, I went out to the car to get it. Okay, and I come back in, and that's when I did it. And so that's how it happened. So we go farther now. We got married at St. Louis University College Church. And how?
Xavier?
Yes. And how we decided on that, I think Father Jack Hunhausen, a Jesuit priest in her family that knew him for years, and so we called up the people that run the scheduling of the. You can imagine that church is always busy. Okay, so I called this lady up and I said, we're anticipating getting married on New Year's Eve. And I said, we'd like to do it, like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And she said, oh, no, you can't do that. And I said, well, what's the matter? Well, it's going to have, St. Louis has on New Year's Eve, they have what do they call it, a street festival?
First night.
Okay. So I said, well, what time could we do it? She said, no, I don't think there's any time that would be good. And I said, well, I did a name dropping. I said, Father Hunhausen and Father Kraus. Father Kraus was in charge of the church. And we knew Father Kraus. We went to dinner with him and so forth. And she says, oh, well, we'll see. So, and I said, well, how about 11 o'clock? She came back to me and said, no, that would be too close because they close up the streets at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Because we're going to have the reception downstairs right after the ceremony. So I said, how about 10 o'clock? And I said, they really want this to work. Father Kraus and Father Hunhausen, 2 Germans. So she comes right back to me and says, yeah, okay. So that's where we had it. And it's a great place to have a reception. It's down underneath the church.
Well, you forgot to mention, as soon as we were engaged, Lauren and Kathleen got to work. And they start planning everything. And they were such a great help. But it was fun.
Both your families were in the wedding party?
They all took part in the wedding party. In the wedding. And it was just a wonderful day.
Yes, it was. And being December 31st, it was cold. But it was pleasantly cold. It wasn't bad. But we stayed at the Chase Hotel, which was good. Anyway, our pictures up there on the wall shows the families.
Yeah, I'll include that in the video.
That would
Yeah.
be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the church is up there too. So that's where we
And
are.
He didn't tell me where we were going to stay, you know, the wedding night, and he kept saying, "Oh, Motel 6 sounds great to me." And I said, "Well, I won't be there." And so anyway.
I still try to. Betty Ann came to me and said that she's inviting me to go to Fonbon on her 50th anniversary, which included a mass at their chapel on campus to celebrate her 50th anniversary. We get there and celebrate the mass, you know, and she sings the Ave Maria, which was a big surprise to me. I didn't know that she was a singer.
Oh.
And she's got an operatic voice. And so I come to find out, you know, that she, in her early days, would sing at the Belleville Cathedral, you know, and so when she got through with the Ave Maria, because she sang both, what do you call it? Both
Verses.
Both verses, and just like right now, my tears came to my eyes. I said, "Oh my goodness!" And
This is when you were dating?
yes, and her three daughters were there, and we were sitting in the back, and you can imagine the surprise. You know, I can hear, you know, a person thinking they can sing, you know, and all of a sudden they get up and start squawking, and then you got to tell them, oh boy, how good they were, you know.
Right.
But she had, you know, an operatic voice that it was just impressive, you know. So she can tell you a little bit about her past on that, you know, and I think it's kind of interesting.
Well, I majored in music education and minored in voice. And my biggest thrill was that I was asked to sing at Kiel Auditorium one evening. They had a CBC high school concert, and my voice teacher had me as soloist, and that was the biggest thrill of my life. Not of my life, but I mean of my music life.
How old were you?
I was a senior in college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then I graduated in 1957.
And you still singing to this day?
Well, I do. I sing in the Ascension Choir, Ascension Church, and I'll sing for weddings or some funerals.
And this is the church that you both attend now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, she a lot of friends over in Belleville. She's gone to Belleville to sing for, like she said, like for funerals or anniversaries or whatever may have. But
Well, then I'll tell that my first marriage, I married August 3rd, 1957, and then we have 6 children. Mary Beth, who is married to Eric DeBoard, and she has 4 sons. Stephen, he lives in Texas, and he has 1 daughter. David lives in St. Louis. He and his wife Eileen have 2 children, a son and a daughter. Suzanne lives in San Diego, and she's married to Scott Lonis, and they have 2 sons. Jim, he lives about 5 minutes from us, and he's married to Amy, and they have 2 sons. And Kathleen, the youngest, she lives in Parker, Colorado, and she's married to Walt Seiske, and they have 2 daughters. So a wonderful family. And my husband passed away on December 14th, 1994.
So I have to tell you, you mentioned our children. David was born when I was overseas, February 9th, 1953. And Rick was born in September of 1954. Jeff was born in December of 1955. Doug was born in September of 1957, and Craig was born January of 1961.
And they're all married?
They're all married, and we have...
you want to mention their wives and how many children they have?
Yes. David was married to Terry Flanagan, and Rick was married to Teresa Perry, and Jeff was married to Senior Moment, Betty Ann.
Cheryl.
Cheryl O'Keefe. And Doug was...
is married to Joan.
Married to Joan and...
Theo.
1957. Joan Theo, yes. Excuse me. And the last is Lauren Mullenberg, who is married to Craig. And they married in 1986.
And how many grandchildren do you have?
Well, I have 14, and Betty Ann has 13. And we have 5 great, with 1 on the way.
Wow.
Yeah. Chelsea and Eric, David's son, she's going to have a baby, I think, in February?
Yes.
February of 2019. So that is it. I have been blessed with love of God, my faith and family. I love each of you and only wish you the best. I hope through my story you will pass it on to the future Guempel children. We are so very lucky to have been in this loving family.